She accused him of rape, but her Instagram told a very different story. She called him her mentor, her brother, a friend for life. But in court, that same woman stood before a jury and called him her rapist. Sean Diddy, Combs' former assistant, shocked the world when she took the stand, not just with her testimony but with the contradiction between what she posted online and what she claims happened behind closed doors. Praising him on Instagram, hugging him in birthday videos, even calling him an inspiration. So the question everyone's asking is simple. Was she lying then, or is she lying now? What you're about to hear is the story behind those posts, how a smiling public image clashed with a terrifying private reality, and why her answers could change everything. When Mia stepped into the courtroom, the room didn't see an assistant. They saw a woman carrying nearly a decade of secrets. She testified that in 2009, just months after Combs allegedly kissed her without consent at his 40th birthday party, he went even further, waking her up one night and forcing himself on her in a bunk bed inside his Los Angeles mansion. But that's not what the world saw at the time. His defense attorney, Brian Steele, wasn't subtle. He held up screenshots from Mia's Instagram, posts from years after the alleged assault. In one, she called Diddy her mentor. In another, she wrote, "Love you," and thanked him for inspiring her every day. And in a bizarre twist, she even posted a comedy skit where Combs pretended to deliver her fake baby, thanking him for letting me give birth to my dreams. Steele didn't need to say much. He just looked at the jury and asked, why would someone celebrate the man who stole her happiness? The jury sat frozen. Mia's response? Cold and simple. Instagram was a place to show how great your life was, even if it wasn't true. To her, it was all part of the image. A survival strategy. Something she says she had to do to stay safe, stay sane, and stay invisible under his control. But that wasn't the only thing the defense had up its sleeve. From the outside, Mia's life looked like something out of a hip-hop fairy tale: private jets, exclusive parties, and a front-row seat to one of the biggest empires in music. But according to her testimony, the reality was far more sinister. Mia told the court that working for Sean Combs wasn't just exhausting, it was psychologically scarring. She claimed that the emotional highs and lows were so extreme, she began to live in constant fear. One moment, he was showering her with praise. The next, he was screaming, threatening, or worse. Even simple things like a coworker asking, "Where are you?" would send her into a spiral. In her mind, it wasn't a question. It was an accusation. A warning. A threat. She described throwing her phone across the room in terror after seeing Combs' number pop up on her screen years after she had stopped working for him. Mia said she hasn't held a single job since leaving in 2017. Not because she didn't want to, but because she couldn't. The trauma, she explained, had rewired her brain. Loud voices triggered panic attacks. Even hearing someone call her name made her body tense up. The past wasn't just behind her, it was living inside her. And just when she thought it was over, he found a way to reach her again. After nearly a decade under Combs' influence, Mia finally walked away. Or so she thought. Then came the lawsuit. In late 2023, Cassie, Combs' ex-girlfriend, filed a bombshell case against him, filled with explosive allegations. The headlines lit up. The internet exploded. And suddenly, Mia's past wasn't buried anymore, it was knocking at her door. That's when she says the phone rang. It wasn't Combs. It was Damian Butler, better known as D-Rock, a former bodyguard and longtime member of Combs' inner circle. At first, she says she felt excited. This was someone she once trusted. But her relief didn't last. When Butler told her he was calling from Combs' house, her stomach dropped. She realized this wasn't just a friendly call. This was a message. Mia told the jury she was terrified, threatened, scared, nervous. She said it felt like Combs was reaching through someone else, trying to pull her back in. And if that wasn't enough to rattle her, what she found out next would shake her even more. Mia wasn't the only one coming forward. After Cassie's lawsuit exploded in the media, a federal investigation quietly picked up steam behind the scenes. It turns out Mia's story wasn't just shocking, it was part of a much larger web of alleged abuse, intimidation, and control. Federal agents testified that Cassie's lawsuit wasn't just civil noise. It lit the match that launched an entire criminal probe. Prosecutors began digging deep into Combs' inner circle, looking at patterns of behavior, financial trails, and most importantly, the people he was still in contact with. They claimed that even after his arrest in September, Combs was making moves behind bars. According to prosecutors, he was still reaching out directly or indirectly to witnesses, trying to sway them, silence them, or rewrite their version of the truth. That's one reason why bail was off the table. Judges didn't just see a celebrity on trial. They saw a man accused of trying to control the narrative by any means necessary. and that narrative, prosecutors argued, had been carefully crafted for years. As the courtroom drama unfolded, another piece of the puzzle came into focus: the money. After leaving Combs' empire in 2017, Mia says she received part of a $400,000 settlement. On paper, it was reimbursement for unpaid bonuses and overtime, but the timing and the silence that followed raised serious questions. She told the court that she only saw a little over $200,000 of that money. The rest? Gone to lawyers. Not a single dime, she claimed, was tied to the sexual assaults she later testified about. And why didn't she mention those assaults back then? Mia's answer was simple. She was scared. Scared of the consequences. Scared of what Combs might do. Scared of being disbelieved, humiliated, or worse, erased. Years passed. She tried to rebuild her life. But the trauma clung to her like a shadow. Even now she says she can't hold a job. Can't answer her phone without fear. Can't hear his voice even in her head without her body freezing up. She gave him a scrapbook once. A birthday gift filled with love, admiration, and praise. But as she told the jury, that was all for show. Behind the smiles, behind the glitz, she says she was barely surviving. To the world, Sean Diddy Combs built an empire. He was the mogul, the mentor, the man who could turn dreams into platinum records. But behind the flashing lights and luxury branding, Mia says, lived a much darker reality, one where power wasn't just flaunted, it was weaponized. From bunk bed assaults to midnight threats. From public praise to private breakdowns. Her story isn't just about trauma, it's about survival. And now, with the federal spotlight shining directly on Combs, her voice joins a growing chorus of women demanding accountability no matter how long it takes or how powerful the man at the center may be. He's pleaded not guilty. His lawyers say Mia's story doesn't add up. But the damage, if her account is true, has already been done. The courts will decide what's fact and what's fiction. But one thing is clear, for Mia, the performance is over. And this time she's telling the story, not smiling through it. What happens when the man who shaped pop culture is accused of shaping people's lives through fear? Diddy isn't just facing courtroom drama, he's facing a potential collapse of everything he built. From endorsements to record deals, from fashion labels to media empires, the backlash is only beginning. Major brands are distancing themselves. Former allies are falling silent. And the industry that once crowned him is now watching, carefully, silently waiting to see how far this will go. If the allegations hold, this isn't just the unraveling of a celebrity. It's the exposure of an entire system that may have protected him for years. But if he's innocent, as his team insists, then we're watching one of the most explosive takedowns in entertainment history based on lies that could destroy a man's legacy. So who's telling the truth? Only time, evidence, and testimony will decide. But one thing is certain, the world isn't just watching Diddy anymore. They're questioning how many others like him still walk the red carpet. Smiling. Just when Mia thought it was over, her phone rang. It was D-Rock, Combs' longtime bodyguard. At first, she felt a strange comfort. They had history. Maybe he was checking in. Maybe it was innocent. But that comfort shattered fast. He was at Combs' house. He wanted to reconnect her with her old boss. To Mia, it wasn't a coincidence. It was a message, silent but deafening. She told the court she was terrified, panicked, convinced this was Combs' way of reaching her without leaving fingerprints. I needed a game plan, she said. I didn't want my life to be in danger. And that moment wasn't isolated. According to federal prosecutors, Combs and his inner circle didn't stop at intimidation. They allegedly contacted other victims and witnesses, trying to sway their stories, bend memories, and blur the truth before it ever hit the courtroom. That's why, even now, Diddy sits behind bars without bail. Not because of what's been proven yet, but because of what he might do next. And that, more than anything, reveals just how deep the scandal goes. If these allegations are just the beginning, how many more stories are waiting to surface? Because let's be honest, this isn't just about Sean Diddy Combs anymore. This is about an industry that's built on silence. Whispers in the studio, settlements behind closed doors, careers traded for compliance. And when someone speaks out, they're called bitter, crazy, or worse, erased. But the cracks are showing. Cassie's lawsuit opened the floodgates. Mia's testimony gave it a voice. And now the FBI, the courts, and the public are all watching, not just for justice, but for answers. Who else knew? And most chilling of all, who's still out there doing the same thing, right now? because if the Diddy empire is falling, it might not fall alone. And this might be just the start of the reckoning.